Don't care if it's right. I don't care if it's right. I don't care if it's right.
My name is Nigel Chambers. I am from Big Go Belt Media. Nick and Anna, thank you so much for your time today and congratulations. Your new film, Nora, is on its way to theaters. LA folks are going to see it on the 11th, and folks beyond that will see it on the 18th. How are you feeling?
Uh, the idea that an independent film can make it all the way to movie theaters right now is a pretty big deal. So,
Absolutely.
thrilled, terrified, exhilarated, excited.
Yeah, yeah. And for what it's worth, congratulations on already the success. Because and in fact, that actually goes into one of my questions. But as you said, yeah, we are in a very unprecedented times, especially with filmmaking, especially with independent films, and you all go extremely broke to put out passion projects and to tell these stories and after you kind of put it out into the world, you never know like how it ends to get to in front of folks in order to receive the message. But this one's on the way, so nothing to worry about. And I know people will love this one. The first question I want to talk about is I had all my questions all the way done. I recently just had additional time to load in a few more questions. And I took a look at your director's statement, and something that really resonated with me was the statement where it says, I grew up believing that I can have it all for some odd reason. Now, I don't want to point the finger at anybody or anything, but like I grew up with that same notion. And in a way, I kind of reflect back and say that's such a reckless thing to tell somebody because the realism of it is that you can't. And you continue to talk about how, and which I love and love you for putting this film out. And a lot of this film is really about how selfless people can be, especially women, especially mothers. And you talked about having to give things up because you had to put your kids first. So I just wonder for you, when you really just sit back and really think about, sort of the things that they kind of taught you in the world initially to get into this point. And another one I'll add is like, one that really kind of eats me up inside is like, you do good into the world and good will come into you. And then you see so much senseless crimes and acts of like violence and so on. It's like, but those were good people.
Yeah, yeah.
Why were these basic principles that should have made everything that we believe we can do possible not actually a fact? You
Well,
know?
I think that one of the problems with the statement of we can have it all is that somebody else is defining what all looks like for us, right? Having it all has to be you made $1 billion, right? I mean, when I was a child, it was $1 million, but
Yeah.
right now it gets turned into these absolute extremes, or to be a good mom, it has to be Instagram worthy, right? That's not true, and it's not my experience. I'll never forget when my kid was little, just realizing when my second child was born that if I gave her 5 solid minutes of pure time a day, she was fine, right? Just
Mm.
really me and put down the phone and these things. And so I want to really redefine what have it all means and not be defined by somebody else's version of it. And I think that one of the cool things we get to do as artists is recognize everybody in their humanity. And desperation will lead people to do crazy ass things. And it's only with love and the support of a community
Yeah.
behind you that you can have any version of having it all. And a lot of people have been abandoned. So recognizing the person who's in front of you and what their level of recognition of selfhood is one of the things I hope the movie does, right? She finds the negative things in herself and figures out that she doesn't want to be living in the panic state, but in a go-getter state, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it, Nick. Anything want to add in there?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I kind of hear what you're saying. I mean, it feels more like a personal question, honestly. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I wish those things in the world weren't happening either. Yeah, I think all you can do is lead with kindness, and obviously, I think there's good lessons for that in this film too. Yeah.
100%. I mean, and that's what I loved about the film. There's so much about when you think about Nora's and even Adam's journey here, but like I felt like the moment I finished the film, it transcended but beyond these characters. It 100% was a reflection of my own life. And while this was a journey about a mother and really coming to terms with motherhood looks like. as a black male who can't have kids, I'm telling you that it resonated with me just
Hmm.
way beyond just what the characters were just doing in this. One question I want to ask you too, because I thought this was another important thing was what do you define as success when chasing a dream? Because I got to tell you, there is this other misconception in the world that when you leave to go do something, whether it's college, whether you're going out to pursue some profession, the moment you come back home, you are hit with the scrutiny of you failed. And I don't know why that is such a prominent sort of slander of sorts. So I'm curious for you two when you talk about success, because one thing success means you go out and you never come back. At least that's what the slanders are. But for you two, how do you define success when it comes down to chasing a dream? We'll start with you, Nick.
Well, yeah, I mean, I completely hear you. I think, unfortunately for myself, I'm the biggest one telling myself those things, which is something I'm working on, of course. But it's especially when you choose to pursue acting, which I've kind of taken a step away from in some regards. But throughout my entire pursuit, it's like I was so fortunate to find the work I did, but is it enough? Is it is it the work I even want to be doing? Is this why? Well, this isn't the dream role. This isn't the, so then this, am I ever going to get there? Am I ever, I mean, is that where success is? Is that the full completion of my dream? So in the meantime, I can't enjoy the journey whatsoever. I'm just beating myself up about all of these incredible things I'm doing that somehow aren't enough for me. I think having taken a step back, I moved to Arizona. My family's here. We have a family business. I've kind of been exploring this stuff, and it's given me so much perspective on, what I did achieve, what success I did have, how truly, masochistic, pessimistic I was at times about my achievements, or the quality of work I was being offered. And, I moved out to Los Angeles to act. I did the thing. I mean, I made a living doing it for 8 years. It's you just so get in your own way. And whether there's obviously a lot of mental health here, that, but yeah, whether where does it come from? I think in my case, some of it is just self-inflicted. But why is that there to begin with? Was it my parents? Was it something else? My dad's a very successful businessman, and so I think, how am I ever going to live up to that? It's
Yeah.
not to go on too long, but yeah, I think, I hear you. It's really, really hard, but obviously in reflection, yeah, I should have been a lot nicer to myself and enjoyed enjoyed all the steps I made. It's a shame sometimes the pressure we put on ourselves.
And I want you to
This is
respond to that too, but I got to tell
yeah.
you, as just a consumer of this film, that is exactly what I want the audience to get from this. That exact commentary, conversation starter, every
Yes.
single bit. Nick, 1000% agree with every single day you said. That's exactly how I felt about it. So I'm here with you. I'm here for you.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll get through this.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's exactly it, right? How do we, right? The artistic temperament is not really something where you can just be like, oh, I'm just going to turn that off and exclusively we need an outlet. We need permission to have these big conversations. We don't want to isolate ourselves from humanity, but we need to feel like the largeness that we're feeling about things has a place. And I hope that the film justifies that. But it's really fascinating. I also was in LA for 18 years before having to flee with my family, to feel like I was giving them the best life. And it wasn't until I moved back home to the small market that I left behind very much on purpose and confronted the things that had made me need to leave in the first place to go and do the big thing that any of my dreams started coming through. And it was that smaller artistic community that got behind me, that had my back, that gave me their all. I'm going to start crying and their whole hearts because there was no reason not to, right? That sense of community sometimes doesn't happen when what you're talking about is a market instead of a creative force.
Hmm.
And so I was very lucky to have this many resources behind me, but the biggest resource I had was a team that had my back. And if you don't have that, it doesn't matter where you are. You're finding your people no matter what. You're connecting with humans no matter what. And I think that, Nora, for much of the movie, is very alone and isolated. And it's not until she finds someone who's like, no, I see you. I've
Yeah.
got your back. I want to create with you. And I was laughing earlier because, he's sort of cast as the muse and you don't see the man cast that often. Like she needs him to get anything done. She's just sitting there beating herself up. So I think that this story is more universal than we think that it is when we're going through it in a private way.
Mm.
And that's enough. Let's go through it together instead.
Yeah, I'm thinking of myself looking at the time. I was like, man, I knew I was going to come loaded with questions and conversation and more of a conversation than less of an interview. And I was just going to eat through this. So I do make sure I want to absolutely highlight some of the filmmaking aspects of this in this short time. And one thing I really, 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 really loved about this, and obviously I think everybody's going to default to the music, which I did love, but what I love is the animation and the creativity behind the pocketed music moments. Now, I want to ask you as a filmmaker, how do you sort of storyboard this? Is this something that you had initially knew you wanted to do from the beginning, or did it come afterwards? And then when it comes down to the filming aspect of it, and in collaboration with your cinematographer and so on, do you have to come back and say, here's how I want this to be shot, the creativity of it? Because what I really love about it is that it doesn't look fluent in the sense of this is one movie, but here's just a moment of a music video. These actually feel like legitimate music videos injected into that, which we know that's a whole creativity in its own. And we get three or four of them that we didn't know we signed up for, but we damn sure will take it. And I thought they were all artistry wise and creativity wise amazing. So how did you sort of storyboard and get to that point of doing it in the way you did?
Oh, you're making me feel so good about it. So the truth is, initially, so we shot the main part of the movie first, and then it was another year before we shot the music videos. And I did not have the confidence to think that I could shoot the music videos. So they were written in the script. We knew we had the songs written before we went into principal photography for the sort of, truthful part of the of the film. But I was going to hire other people to do them. Like I
Hmm.
really thought that somebody else had to bring the big creativity for it. And as we were editing the realism part of the film, suddenly I realized, wait, if these don't all come from Nora's head, from the same writer's head, from the same creator's head, they won't tell the story. And so it had to. And that was when I gave myself permission to go, no, wait, what would the music video look like for it? And I realized I had everything in my head. So each one of those music videos is shot in one damn day
Wow.
with very, very firm ideas about exactly what was needed in order to tell truth. And each one of them has a full-length version of it, not just the one in the thing. So you're right, they do stand alone independently with the full-length versions of the songs too, and we'll be releasing those pretty soon. But each one of those is its own little mini movie, and choosing which parts of that to put into the larger picture was really fun. And what I realized was every single one of those videos is me reclaiming something from a feminist perspective, right? And I don't mean that in any kind of isolating way, but in a why do we turn ourselves into mannequins to look like the other girls?
Yeah.
Or why is romance chasing a man through the forest? What if I'm chasing my own dreams? Or the 80s music video Tiger, right? Where instead of it just being we look at everybody with the curiosity of what that person's going to mean to our lives. So expanding the imagery that had kind of messed with my head, honestly, as a woman for so many years, and reclaiming, or Archie, the comic book one is my interpretation of Archie, Betty and Veronica fighting over one boy.
Yeah.
Let's fight for ourselves instead. So
Yeah.
thank you for recognizing them. They were fun
Yeah,
and
listen,
nonsense.
I can speak for myself, and I will always be pro and very acceptance of a woman's perspective and commentary on things. And if you need additional validation, I mean, look at how the world receives substance and all the awards that came behind that, and how that changed the commentary behind beauty and what does it mean to
100%.
be, an older actor. So yeah, you're just stay on it. Absolutely, pedal to the metal
Well,
with it.
it cracks me up too because, we say, oh, it's the feminine perspective, so that's somehow different, but we're like half of people, right? So really we're just saying let's expand people's experience, let's
Yeah.
just make sure everybody is understanding everybody, right? We're just
Yeah.
half of people. It's not, and so I don't intend for this to be only for women by any
Yeah.
means, and it makes me so happy when any dreamer identifies with it for sure. But I don't want to vilify men. There's no interest in my
Right.
mind of not including both them in the conversation and never painting them in a bad light, which I really try hard
Absolutely.
not to do in the film. This is not about, they happen to be both deeply supportive
Yeah.
or, not present, but no one is doing a bad job of being the person they need to be for her. That's hugely important to the way I approach the storytelling.
Yeah.
So it is for everyone. It's absolutely for everyone. Plus, I just keep dying because female content is making just as much money at the box office with Barbie and with Wicked and with I always laugh Sex and the City when it first came out made so much
And the
money
list goes
and
on and
we
on.
didn't understand that women were going to go to the movie theater and I just die laughing about this idea that we're not kind of the CEOs of the household and in charge of our own pocketbooks at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
So of course it's not just that there's a place that's like, yeah, we just need content that also reflects a uniquely female experience. That's it.
Yeah, listen, as a person who's very pro diversity and inclusion, I have to tell people all the time, this does not mean that I'm like exclusive to things. Nobody's asking for like particular rights or whatever to be very exclusive to things. Like, no, everybody just wants an opportunity to have it all to be shared. That's all it is. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
we eye to
Well,
eye here.
let's stop pretending the world just looks like one thing. It just
Yeah,
doesn't. It just doesn't.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come to you, Nick, because yeah, she's exactly right when it comes down to Anna. And I really, really um I was like, I need a friend like Adam because that is the type of caliber of a person you need there. That's gonna be there with you through thick and thin. And give sort of motivation in a way we don't casually always see it. It didn't feel very forceful, but it felt at all times very sincere and very available, shall I say. Um, I want to know for you when you step into a character like that, um, and much like I said in the beginning, everything about this film transcends beyond what you watch. It is sort of a almost like a measure of healing for society when you realize you step into a character that's important to the dreamers in the world, to the ones that lack the confidence once because society threw something at them or people kept trying to put them in boxes. But Adam always saw her for who she was the entire time. Just how did that resonate with you as an actor? And how do you feel like that character continues to live with you right now?
Um, yeah, I'm trying. It's like as you're saying this stuff, I'm like, get it. It, it's obviously very cool to hear the way you're describing it. I, in my head, on some level, I'm just, a teacher. For children. It's that was my role. It wasn't in my head. Sometimes it's as big as like the weight you're putting on it. Obviously, it's a meaningful role, but I think I'm like, why did it land there? And I think if anything, it was like probably like mimicking our real relationship, but myself and Anna. I mean, I'm there to as an actor. I was just there to help her to support this movie. I there's no personal agenda there for me. And especially because it's a creative endeavor, like there's actual passion behind it, actual people, she's really trying to actually make something, whereas like I had spoken to earlier, some of this work you end up doing, it's not that fulfilling. Of course, it's I'm still doing the thing, so it should have been nicer, but with this, you're really just, hey, I respect way too much what you're trying to do here, let me just selflessly be here. I want to do the right things for you. How can I do that? And I think maybe, in terms of Adam and Nora, it's, yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, he's just recognizes someone who's, just, yeah, I maybe needing a shoulder to lean on or just to push in the right direction, something like that. It's, and yeah, obviously I can, I hope in my real life, as I think it was already, mimicking in the film, but yeah, would love to, I mean, who doesn't want to be a shoulder to lean on? I think I've always been a pretty empathetic guy, but yeah, I mean, I can only hope to stay that way. Yeah.
I I
Can I
love me
say
some
one other
Nick.
thing about
I love me
right? I
some
love
Nick.
me some Nick, right? And but there's one other thing that I want to compliment him on because he was precisely that, and that's very much the person that he is. But when we did the auditions, Nick's was the only one that didn't use the banter that I had written between these two characters to either flirt with her blatantly or put her down.
Mm.
He simply was that level of present and accepting and open. And that's not a knock on the other actors. That's the assumption when we're reading standard fare is that a romance is a brewing. And
Yeah.
it's really important to me to represent a positive heterosexual friendship
Yeah.
where the guy can be the muse for her and where she can bring something positive to his life that doesn't have to end, in a way that every other Hollywood story does. And he was the only one who nailed it. And it's just a respect for his talent and the person that he is and his ability to read into the story what it actually needed. It's spectacular.
Yeah, I see, Nick. First of all, I'm just going to tell you, maybe this isn't ethical, but make a burner account and put out a review for this film because how you see it is again is that I'm gonna do my work, don't worry, but like how you
Okay,
see
yeah,
it is
yeah.
exactly how people should be
Uh,
receiving it. And
uh,
just to add a add bit to what you were saying, and I see why you were kind of struggling with your words because Nick is looking at it like, why am I being sort of like praised for just doing the right thing?
yeah,
It's
Exactly.
super normalized here, and I feel you 100% about
yeah.
that. So, huge ups to you, man. I really,
Yeah.
I love me some Nick, man. Good, great
Oh,
guy,
thank,
fantastic actor.
thank
You
you.
got good
Uh,
taste, that's why. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. All right, listen, I got a last question here for you,
Yeah.
and this goes to the credits, because when it's all said and done, in which I don't want to give anything away, but what you shot with the credits piqued
Mm.
my interest. And I want to know because it was really cool to see where the journey was going beyond this. But it wasn't just, and because the film could have just ended how it ended with, she does her thing and whatnot. Um, but the credits gave so much more life, so much more affirmation to the viewers that, like, oh, it's really happening. It's really going down. My first question I want to know with you was why was it important to have, well, excuse me, what was the discussion to have that as a part of the film? And because how it was shot, did you actually shoot this as an entire film? That aspect, did you want to make it more? Because the journey now that, as the fans, we rejoice like, yes. But also it's kind of like, I actually wouldn't mind to see what some of those conversations would have been like, what the performances might have happened and so on. So it feels like another adventure for us was brewing, but now we see it was actually occurring. So I'm wondering, like, did you ever think about actually expanding that into more? Or how did you
Mm.
shoot that in order to like frame it the way you did?
Seeing a series with lots of music in it where Nick and I
You
get to
know,
put
you know what
headphones
I'm
on.
saying,
Great.
you
Yeah.
know?
It's funny that you call that out because that is one of the things that was not written into the original script, right? She went on the road, but not to ruin the ending, sorry. But right, she does get what she needs, but it was really important to me to identify how as well. That establishing very clearly that this was a friendship and a musical partnership, establishing really clearly that she does call the kid when she says she's going to call the kid, right? That you can still find the ability to be good at the multiple parts of yourself that you need to have to feel like a full person. And so it's really important to me that we added that in. And I also hope that it ends us on a completely positive high. I really want to leave people, so many films leave us feeling just like tragedy ridden. And that's the way we feel so much of our lives. Like, what if we can focus on the hope? What if
Yeah.
we can focus on the future? What if we can focus on permission to be more than where you currently are? And look, that's literally what's happening for me right now. I get to take this movie into movie theaters. That's not like that's abnormal. And so it's like I've so many of the scenes within this I had a version of happen to me after we'd filmed it. And I feel like that's sort of that moment there too, people saying thank you for being the artist in my life, people saying you're an amazing mom, people saying go do your thing, and then right now putting it out there actually into the world.
I love that for you and for you and your team and everybody else involved. I am going to wrap. You called it a movie. I called it a movie. It's an experience because yeah, you get the film and whatnot, but you get music videos in there and amazing performances by yourself and your team. And as you said, just a heartfelt message and messages to leave out with. And one thing that I will say is like music is so therapeutic. And to see how she fights for that is such a beautiful story within its own. I think this is really just the beginning of so many more positive and loving things coming into your life. And this is going to be part of the success of healing the world when people continue to go out to the theaters and support films like Nora. So, with that being said, Anna, Nick, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute love to be here with you both in this space and talk about this film. And I can't wait for the world to see it again in LA. The 11th, and then New York and beyond on April 18th. Thank you so much for your time. It's been so much fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. You're one of us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Precocious.